Hi, and welcome to your Level 1 Pilates class. So this class is for pure beginners. If you've never done Pilates before, you're just starting to learn the ropes, or maybe if you've got an injury and you just want to keep the levels low and just stay at a cautious level. This class is for you. So all you need is your stretchy clothing, your mat, some space to stretch your arms out and legs out, and a cushion. Okay, that's all you'll need for this class is a cushion. We'll pop the cushion to the side for the moment. We'll set the body up. As always, we need to use hip distance apart with our feet. If you're not sure on that, take the feet together, kick the heels out, bring the feet in line, and that'll automatically bring you to your hip distance apart. We try to keep the hips, the knees and the ankles all in line throughout Pilates, because if we're training the brain to use our bodies properly so as not to cause injury and imbalances. So settle the feet into the floor, moving up through the legs. Make sure you don't lock your knees backwards. That's very bad for the back of the knees, so just make sure you can easily wiggle them if you needed to. We call that soft knees. Bringing your focus to your pelvis. I want you to think about having a neutral spine, so that's a natural curve to your lower back. Pubic bone and hip bones should be level with each other as you look down. You could think of your pelvis as being a bucket of water. If I arch my back, tip my pelvis forwards, of course the water's going to flow out the front. If I do the opposite, slouch back, the water will tip out the back. We need to be in the centre so the water doesn't spill at all. It's what's called your neutral spine, a natural curve to your lower back. But essentially, pubic bone and hip bones as you look down should be level with each other. Moving on up, we need to switch on the core muscles. So they're the muscles in between the ribs, and they wrap down here as well. They wrap underneath the pelvic floor, and of course they also wrap around the back. I'd like you to place your thumbs on the bottom edge of your rib cage. Take your fingers down to your hip bones. Now breathe in, and as you breathe in, allow the thumbs to be lifted. As you breathe out, close the gap between thumbs and fingers. So you're tightening this area in here. Let's try again. Breathe in. Allow the thumbs to be lifted. As you breathe out, draw in and close that gap. Keep that tension between ribs and hips. Maintain that. Now also just gently zip up with the pelvic floor. It's almost as if you're trying to stop yourself from going to the toilet mid-flow. But don't squeeze too hard, you'll struggle to breathe calmly otherwise. Just draw upwards gently with that core connection in your core muscles here as well. So with regards to the rib cage, when we do Pilates, when the arms go up, you need to make sure that your chest doesn't follow. See how I'm arching my upper back here? You want to avoid that at all costs. So when the arms go up, the rib cage stays down, the back stays straight. And for some that might mean that you restrict how high the arms go up. We'll go through that in a little more detail in a moment. So that's the feet, the knees, the pelvis, the core, the ribs. Now the shoulders, they need to be rolled backwards. Chin towards the throat, lengthening up through the back of the neck. We're always aiming to be a little bit taller and leaner with Pilates. So hence we stand as tall as we can, lifting up from inside. Let's take a sense of balance. I just want you to shift forwards and back. Wobble a little bit. Just to switch the brain on. This forces the brain to communicate with the rest of the body. And then when you're ready, you can settle your weight into the floor. Think about plugging in the big toe, the little toe, and the heel. And spread your weight evenly into the floor for me. Okay, we're going to go through the breathing now. I'd like you to place one hand on the upper part of the chest and one hand on the lower part of the tummy. Now take a breath in through the nose. Direct the air into the palm that's on the chest. As you breathe out, feel the chest deflate down. I'm trying to get you to breathe into the chest because we can't breathe into the tummy because we need those tummy muscles to be flattened and switched on. Let's go again. We try and breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, taking the air into the chest. But all the time as you breathe, you should feel that there's no change in the area underneath that bottom hand. That might take some time to get used to. You should find that it's easier to maintain that core connection on the breath out, a little bit harder on the breath in maybe. Let's release the arms. Close the eyes. Keep the core muscles switched on. And breathe. In through the nose. Inflate the chest. Breathe out through the mouth and deflate down. But think about keeping that core connection. The pelvic floor gently zipped up. Okay, keeping the eyes closed if you want to, we'll drop the chin down to the chest and gently roll the head from side to side, loosening up through the back and the side of the neck. Keep breathing and keep the core muscles switched on. That's it. Drop the chin down to the chest now and bring the eyes forwards. We'll roll the shoulders backwards a couple of times. Roll them forwards a few times. And then to loosen out through the middle of the body, we're just going to swing the upper body from side to side. There we go. Okay, we're going to wake up the lungs a little bit more now, feed some oxygen through the body with some big breaths. We'll bend the knees and we'll sweep the arms up at the same time of taking the breath in. But when we bend the knees, just don't let them collapse together. Core muscles in. Bend the knees, sweep up, breathe in, blow the cobwebs away, nice big breath out. Let's do the same again, breathe in, and breathe out. We'll add on this time, big breath in, take a hold of the right hand and pull it over to the left. Nice long stretch down the side of the body. If you're stable, take the right foot behind the left, just adds that stretch on a little bit more. But don't do it if you're too wobbly. If you find it's too much, release. Do the same to the other side. Big breath in, sweep up. Pull the left hand over to the right. Nice long stretch. And then if you want to, take that left foot behind. Lovely, and release. We're going to do some balance now. I'm going to do tree. I've stolen this from yoga. Any balance is suitable, but we're going to do tree for today. So let's plug one foot into the floor, lengthen up, switch on, focus those eyes in front. The other leg, you're going to pop to the inside of the standing leg. Now the higher you go, the harder it is for your balance, and the knee should point out to the side. Use your arms for balance if you need to, otherwise the hands can go to prayer. Keep looking forwards. To make this balance a little more challenging, you can send the arms up to the sky. Keeping the hands together will make it a little more challenging. If you need an easier version, you can take the arms out to the side. But keeping the core zipped up, keeping your breathing flowing, and staring those eyes will help your balance. And melt down. Give the leg a little shake. Other side. Plug the foot into the floor, lengthen up, switch on, focus the eyes, take the foot into place. It's always beneficial to go through the levels nice and slowly, and you'll find you'll maintain your balance much better. Keep staring, keep the core muscles switched on, shoulders down as you see with those lifted arms, or of course taking the arms out will be slightly easier. Always change which leg you use first as well. Release down. With Pilates we aim for balance throughout left and right, so always change which leg you use first with every single move. So one session you might use the right leg first, the next session you should always use the left leg first. Okay, moving on then, we're going to do some roll downs. I'm turning onto the side but you don't need to. This is just for demonstration purposes. So heels underneath the hip bones then, core muscles are switched on. Breathe in at the top. As you exhale, drop the chin to the chest, drop the arms and shoulders forward. Slowly peel yourself forwards. Imagine a piece of wallpaper slowly peeling away from the wall. The fingers and the top of the head fall towards the floor. If the back of the legs feel tight, bend the knees a little. And just allow yourself to fold over as far as the body will allow you to do so. Remember, we're still warming up. Keeping the core zipped up, we'll slowly rebuild the spine. Imagine you've got that roller in your hand and you're rolling the wallpaper back up the wall, nice and smooth and slow. Melt the shoulders down and the head comes up last. We're going to do it 2 more times, so breathe in at the top. Exhale, chin to chest. Drop the arms and shoulders forwards, keep the tummy scooped up. You could imagine there's a horizontal bar there that you don't want your tummy to touch. So stay scooped up as you fold over. Once again, top of the head and the fingers are falling to the floor, and you can bend your knees if they feel too tight. Keep breathing. Keep the core muscles zipped up. Let's restep. This time I want you to imagine that your tummy muscles are pushing the spine up from inside the body. Rebuilding the spine, rebuilding the rib cage, and then the shoulders will automatically slot into place and the head comes up last. Breathe in at the top. Exhale, chin to chest. Drop the arms and shoulders, and we'll slowly go down once more. Keep breathing. Imagine the space in between each vertebrae as you fold over. The spine is lengthening. The muscles either side of the spine are getting a nice long stretch too. Let's restack up, nice and slow. Keeping the core in and keep breathing. Okay, we're going to change it slightly now. We're going to go over from side to side. So core muscles in, take one arm over to the side. Turn at the last moment, lower down, tummy in. Bring yourself down as close to the floor as you can. Stop in the middle, look between the legs, chin on the chest. Slowly restack, using your core muscles of course. Rebuild nice and slow. Other arm, reaching over. Stretch, turn, stay in control. Use your core muscles, zip up. Come into the center, look between your legs, chin on the chest, restack up. Just that little reset at the bottom before you restack up. We're going to do it once more to each side. Reaching over. Keep the hips still. Turn. Lower down. Keep the core muscles switched on. Look between the legs and zip up. One more time. We will not come back up this time. Reaching over. Turn. Fold towards the floor. Come into the center and then come onto all fours. We're going to do a couple of press-ups. So your easiest press-ups have the knees directly underneath the hips, the hands level with but wider than the shoulders. The back is straight, you see, don't sag. Don't let your back dip at all. You must tuck your bottom under and squeeze in those tummy muscles deep below the belly button. We'll bend the elbows out to the side. Let your body weight pitch slightly forwards. Nose towards the floor. It's not chest and tummy to the floor, remember. Keep the bottom tucked under. Keep the tummy zipped up. Nose to the floor level with the fingertips. This is your easier level. This is called a box press up. Or of course there's the 3/4 press up if you know you're a little bit more stronger than that. Then you can take the hands and body weight forwards, nice and straight through the spine, and again nose towards the floor, no sagging allowed. Let's do 2 more. Okay, push your bottom back to your heels and stretch the arms out in front. Little reprieve and a rest. We're going to do those press ups again, just 4 or 5 of them. I'll do the lower version this time. So hands are level with the shoulders but wider than your mat. Tummy in, body weight pitches forward slightly, nose towards the floor. Back is straight. Breathing in to go down, breathing out to press back up. Super. Feeling nice and strong through the chest. Okay, coming onto our knees now. You're welcome to fold a towel up and put it underneath your knees if you want to. Or of course, you can always fold your mat up once or twice to give you a little bit more cushioning if you need it. If you're not happy kneeling up like this and you're able to, you can sit on your heels. If not, sit on the floor and sit on your cushion. And the legs can be wherever you are comfy if you are seated. So kneeling, the knees once again must be underneath those hips. Squeeze your bottom muscles a little bit, that'll support your back, and also switch the core muscles on. Zip up with the pelvic floor. We're going to work on the shoulders and the rib cage stability now. I'd like you to float one arm up, but notice how the chest doesn't flare forward, the back stays still, and arm down. I'm putting my hand there just to show you that I'm not lifting through the shoulder. See if you can do the same. Core muscles in, the only thing that should be moving is that arm should simply be rotating through that ball and socket joint of the shoulder. Let's try the other arm. And again, you can put that other hand there if you wish. The rib doesn't pop forwards. Core muscles keep the rib cage pointing down all the time. You can stay with single arms for as long as you wish, building up to double arms. When you do this one, get the sense that the shoulder blades are walking down your back one by one. As your fingers float, the shoulder blades drop. Core muscles in. Bottom squeezing gently, you're still breathing. One more on each side. And release. Give those shoulders a wiggle, shake the arms out. We're going to go to the floor then. We're going to go to basic lift. This is where you might want to use your cushion. The choice is yours, it's completely up to you. Generally though, if you find that when you lay down, if your chin is poking up towards the ceiling, this isn't doing great things for the back of the neck. We always want to keep the back of the neck nice and long and tuck the chin under. So if that's too much without a pillow, just pop a pillow underneath your head, and that will help to keep the back of the neck in a secure position, nice and safe. So your pelvis once again has to be in neutral, so tilt the pelvis up and down like we did when we were standing. This time I want you to imagine that you've got a tray of drinks across your pelvis. Don't tip to spill your drinks. However, for some of the moves we work in imprint, where you are slightly tilted back into the floor. If you imprint, you might well find that you're tightening your tummy instinctively, and this is the reason why we can go to imprint sometimes if we need to, particularly if you've got a bad back. Pregnant ladies, then you would want to go into imprint as well. But for the norm, it's neutral. Now with the legs, we need the legs at a right angle, okay? So your foot placement is particular to that right angle at the knee. So keep the right angle, drop the foot to the floor. I often use my mat, the edge of my mat, and say, well, that's where my foot's got to go back to each and every time. And that just helps me to keep my knee at a right angle. Notice, for instance, I'm not bending and stretching at the knee, I'm moving from the hip. Okay, big difference. So with the pelvis in neutral, core muscles are switched on. If you need to, put the fingers on the ribs, the thumbs on the ribs and the fingers on the hips. Breathe in and out, find that tension in the core there to help switch them on. And then rest the fingertips on top of your hip bones. Again, change the leg that you start with each time you do the program. So as you breathe out, you're going to float one leg in the air. The knee is above the hip, foot is level with the knee. Then you breathe in and melt that foot back down to the starting place. Breathe out, pick the other foot up. And breathe in to melt down. We're going to keep repeating that over and over. One leg up, one leg down, one leg up, one leg down. Breathe out to float. Breathe in to melt down. But as you do so, notice how the tummy muscles should stay switched on throughout, and that back stays in neutral. It doesn't flatten, doesn't lift, it should stay neutral. Now bring your focus to your fingertips. As you swap the feet over, do you find that your feet are pressing into the floor to help shift the weight from one foot to the other, which means your pelvis is rocking like my pelvis is doing now. We want to balance the pelvis, we want to center the pelvis. So find a way, usually by keeping the feet light on the floor, to keep the pelvis perfectly still. as you float from one foot to the other. That can take some practice, so don't worry if you can't get it straight away. Just breathe, find that tension, keep the feet light on the floor, and you should find that in time, with a few practices, you'll find that center point, you'll find that balance, and you'll be able to keep the pelvis still. So, if you cannot keep the pelvis still, you're not going to do the next move. Just watch it or fast forward onto the move afterwards. For those that can keep the pelvis still, breathe out to float one leg, breathe in, prepare, breathe out to float the other leg as well. But, as you see, there's no reaction, there's no jolting through the back. You breathe in to melt one leg and the other leg down. You'll start with the other leg this time. Breathe in, prepare, breathe out to float, breathe in, prepare, breathe out to float, without there being a reaction. I'll just demonstrate it how it should not be done. Okay, now our back is arched. It's a big gap here. Tummy's doming up, that's no good. What you can do if you're struggling with the two legs is you can float the first leg up, breathe in, prepare, breathe out, flatten down a little, and then float the second. You might find you've got more control that way, and then possibly revert to neutral if you want to come back down. So float and flatten to float, and then breathe in to come down. The whole idea is you're aiming towards neutral all the time, but sometimes you need to bridge that gap between one leg and two legs, and so flattening the back in, it forces your tummy muscles to work harder. You've got a safe boundary underneath you, and so you can use the imprinted spine if you need to. Just remember, definitely don't arch. So let's just recap that one. You can rest the hands on the floor now if you wish. Breathe in to prepare, breathe out to float. Breathe in, prepare, soften if you wish, breathe out to float. Breathe in to melt down and melt down, starting with the other leg this time. Breathe out to float, breathe in, prepare, breathe out to float. Softening the back if you need to. Let's do a few more of those. Follow the timing of your breathing. Remember, you breathe out to float. All the other movements are a breath in. You shouldn't be using your hands to grip the floor either to help settle you. That's why I've asked you to put the back of the hands to the floor. If you get quite experienced with this and think, yes, this is totally manageable, slightly more difficult, you can cross the arms over the chest. The big no-nos are the arching of the back, the shoulders and the neck full of tension, and of course the arms gripping the floor. We'll do one more with this one, and then we're going to add on. So relax completely, stretch your arms and legs. We're going to move on to the single leg stretch now, so it's a little add-on to what we've just done. Bring your legs back to the same position, pelvis once again in neutral, tilt to double check. Use your thumbs and fingers if you need to switch your core muscles on. This time the hands can rest behind, by your sides. Just take care though, we're going to circle those arms around, so just make sure you've got space to do that without knocking anything over. So, pelvis in neutral, core muscles switch on, breathe in, prepare. As you breathe out, gently float one leg, like we've just done, but we're going to stay with this leg. Breathe in, prepare. As you breathe out, send that leg pointing forwards. The further you point forwards, the greater the challenge. The lower the leg goes, the greater the challenge on the core. As you stretch the leg, you might feel that your back wants to follow. This is no good, of course, we're not allowed to arch. So contain the core muscles, contain the back, and see how low you can go. Breathe in to return. Breathe out to stretch, tighten. Contain that core, breathe in to return. Add the arms on. As you breathe out, send the foot forwards, fingers up to the sky, float behind your head. Now watch the chest. The chest is not allowed to pop up, like we practiced earlier when we were kneeling. The chest is not allowed to pop up, and the shoulders mustn't shrug up to the ears. Now you can come straight forward with those arms, or, as I showed earlier, you can circle the arms around. It's your choice. Breathe out to lengthen, contain the core, breathe in to return. This might take a little bit of practice to keep the rib cage and the hips connected with the core muscles as you lengthen fingers and toes in opposite direction. Little add-on further. Curl the head and shoulders up off the floor. Now, I'm tightening my muscles here to lift the rib cage off the floor. I'm not just looking down my body. The shoulders must lift with tension here. Same thing, only the fingers don't go quite so far back. Breathe out to lengthen. Breathe in to return. The eyes are looking down at the tummy all the time. You'll notice your back has automatically flattened. That's where it should be. One more for me. You can do this obviously if your head's down, not a problem. We're going to switch to the other side. So melt the head and shoulders down first of all. Make sure your feet are in the right position, the pelvis is in the right position, and the core muscles are switched on. Breathe in, prepare. Breathe out to float the other leg. Just a couple of single legs first. Breathe in, prepare. Breathe out, stretch the leg. How low can you go this time? Breathe in to bring the leg back. Breathe out to point the toes. Imagine you're trying to reach that wall in front of you and come back. Add the arms. Contain the core. Circling round or bringing them straight back the way they went if you wish. Shoulders down away from the ears. Keep the rib cage down. Remember, you're breathing out to lengthen. Tighten the core. Breathe in to return. If you wish, curl up with the head and shoulders. Flatten the back. Fingers to the sky. It's your choice. If you want to keep the head and shoulders down, that's fine. You should return to neutral though. Don't fall with the head and shoulders. Keep biting in those tummy muscles. 2 more times. And hug the legs into the chest and take a rest. Okay, we're going to stretch long now. We're going to do a move called the side kick. So we're going to roll over onto one side. Now for this move we need to be very, very straight. So I suggest you use the edge of your mat to help you to stay straight. Make sure this hand doesn't touch the floor, doesn't grip the floor I should say. Turn the palm up for the ceiling instead. And your ear rests down on your shoulder. If you've got a thin cushion, my cushion here is too big, thin cushion or a folded up towel maybe, you can, if you wish, for comfort, put the towel or cushion in between ear and shoulder. So the legs are long, they're stacked one on top of the other. Fingers in front of your chest. Core muscles are switched on. As you exhale, point the toes, lengthen the legs, allow them literally to float. We're not lifting them, we're just floating them. Imagine you're standing and you're pointing to the sky. Eyes straight ahead. You want to promote a nice straight back and straight neck. Fingers in front if you're a bit wobbly, otherwise hands on the thigh. You're going to stay where you are. I'm just going to move position just to give you a bit of instruction. So if I go straight like this, you can then see that my body from top to toe is in a straight line. Now the things that go wrong with this move is that people fall backwards onto their bottom and their legs come forward. No longer does the abdominals have to do anything because you're just balanced on a larger part of your body. The brain will naturally want you to do this because it's easier. Equally, it's very easy to force the back to do too much work and the feet then go behind you, the top hip comes forwards. This is a banana bend. So this is no good as well because the back is doing all of the work. Tummy muscles are lengthened and stretched. They're not doing anything. So you have to be, unfortunately, in that uncomfortable, wobbly position in the middle. So hopefully you are in the middle and balancing. Just for a few more moments. Okay, and melt down, hug the legs into the chest. This is where you're going to grab your pillow and rest your head on it. You need to bring your head to the front edge of your pillow, so you've got plenty of pillow behind you. Your legs are curled in as they are here. Your bottom arm is outstretched. We're going to circle the top arm. If you have any shoulder problems, find it's too much of a strain through the shoulder, do as I'm doing now. Put your fingers there. You're shortening the arm halfway, and so there isn't quite so much of a strain through the shoulder. Otherwise it's lengthened arms, core muscles are in. Your aim is to keep the hip still. So imagine you've got a cup of coffee on top of your hip here. Taking the arm back, allow the head to roll back, hence the pillow. Shoulder drops back, ribs drop back, but the hip does not. You are not aiming to reach the floor with your hand. Hand comes by the hip and the thigh, back to the front. 2 more times in this direction. We're aiming to rotate through the waist as much as you can. As I said, if it's too much for the shoulder, then take the hand to the shoulder, bend the arm in half. It'll lessen the load through the shoulder for you. Knees should not come apart, the hips should not roll back. We're going to stop now and reverse the other way. This way can be more challenging for the shoulder. Take care. But core muscles in, keep the hips still. Smooth, slow. You're still breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Nice, slow movements. We've got 1 more circle. Super. And there. Okay. We're going to come up onto all fours now. Won't need the pillow for this one. So, onto all fours. We're going to do a move called the tabletop. We'll go to the other side in a second. So tabletop does what it says on the tin, basically. You are a tabletop and that table's not allowed to move around. Imagine you've got your dinner rested against your back. You don't want to lose any of your dinner. So we're going to work opposite hand to leg. But first of all, let's set up that back. Nice and straight. Again, no sagging allowed. Okay? Tuck your bottom under. Tightening those abdominals under the belly button. Lengthen through the neck. Draw those shoulders down away from your ears. And then you're good to go. So, right arm, left leg. Slide the fingers forward, slide the toes back. Without leaning to the side, if you feel stable, float fingers and toes. Float the mat back down to the floor and very softly switch over to the other side. Remember, you've got your dinner laying across your back. As you switch from side to side, keep it very subtle and soft. Don't clonk and blonk the arm and leg down. Keep it smooth, keep it slow. Keep the tummy muscles drawn in. Breathe out to lengthen. Breathe in to slide back. And you don't have to lift very high. Definitely not going any higher than the hip. Might not even be going that high. And always make sure, by taking a little look, to make sure that your knees have come back to the right place. It's quite common for the knees to end up back here and the hands to end up forward like this. You've lost your tabletop then. So always bring those knees back to underneath the hips, hands to underneath the shoulders. But I'd like you to make that one your last one now. You're going to push your bottom back to your heels and have a little rest. Staying on the front, we're going to go down to the dart. You're laying completely flat on your front, hands down by your hips, forehead towards the floor. Notice how the legs are long, flat and relaxed. You want to keep those legs in that state as much as you possibly can. Do not allow the legs to spring into the air with this move. We're trying to focus everything around your waist. So chin tucked under, core muscles are switched on. Breathe in to prepare. As you breathe out, reach the hands down the sides of the legs. Square off the shoulders as you do so. Tighten into the lower back. You should find that your chest is floating. Chin stays tucked under, however. Legs are still relaxed and flat. Breathe in and very slowly melt the chest and forehead to the floor. Breathe out. Execute through the arms. Reaching fingers, squaring off shoulders, tightening everything down into that lower back. Breathe in and release down. Imagine somebody's pulling on those hands to draw the shoulders down into a soft V in the bottom of your back. Tighten everything around your waist as you do so. And remember, belly button pulled in. It's very easy to push the tummy into the floor to make you lift. Please don't do that. We don't want to promote ourselves to have blown out tummies. We want to train the muscles to draw in. And notice how the movement is very slow on the way up and on the way down. Bring it back to our core principles of precision and control. We're going to make this one the last one. And then take the hands under the chest, push back up onto all fours, and we'll do a cat stretch. Tuck the bottom and chin under, fully lengthen through the spine and across the shoulders. Okay, then we're going to take it to the other side. So we're going to do the side kick and then the lying arm circles. So lay yourself out nice and long. Again, use the edge of your mat. Ear resting down. Legs are stacked, eyes on the horizon, tummy muscles are switched on. As you exhale, tighten and lengthen. If you need those fingers in front, then leave them. If not, hand on the thigh. Eyes on the horizon, of course, and breathe. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And remember last time when I turned 90 degrees to the camera. Check that you haven't fallen back onto your bottom. Equally, check that you haven't tightened through your back. Keep the belly button drawn in. Keep the bottom tucked under. Keep breathing. Imagine you're lengthening your body. Check that bottom hand. Check it isn't gripping the floor. You can keep your fingertips on the floor for as long as you wish. As you're training to get better and better, you can just reduce to one finger and then float the finger. Don't suddenly try and move the hands to the thigh because that might destabilize you a little too much. Okay, melting down. Hug the legs into the chest. We'll grab that cushion. Remember your head goes to the front edge of the cushion so that there's space for it to roll back. The legs stay curled in. Bottom arm out in front of you. Top arm on top. Remember to bend the arm if you need to look after a shoulder problem. So core muscles in. Keep the hips still. Imagine that cup of coffee on your hips again. Circling around all the way. Breathing in and breathing out. Core muscles in. Keep the hips still. Definitely keep the knees together. You're not aiming to get the hand to the floor behind you. Remember, just as far as your body will allow. We'll reverse now and go 3 times in the opposite direction. Remember to drop the head and the shoulder behind you. Don't just rotate through the arm. You will damage your shoulder. You must allow the rib cage to go back with you. And one more circle. Okay, and come to seated. We're going to stay on this side, but I'd like you to fold your mat up, just the edge once. We're going to do a move called mermaid. It's quite strong-ish, but it's a very good one for the waist. So the elbow is directly underneath the shoulder. The bottom leg is bent, but it's tucked behind you. Please don't have the leg in front, it won't help. Leg is tucked behind you, top leg goes on top. You're going to press your foot, your knee, your elbow into the floor. Core muscles are in. As you exhale, push down, elbow, knee and foot a little. Float the arm overhead. It's very good for strengthening through the shoulder. It's very good for the waist. Slowly coming down. We're only going to do 4 of these because these are quite strong. If you want to do more of them, feel free to pause the video and do some more. Try not to collapse into that shoulder. Press the shoulder away. Keep it strong. That's 4. Gently going over to the other side. If you know what you're doing, obviously you can possibly turn away from the camera or the screen. But elbow directly underneath the shoulder. Bottom leg is bent, tucked back. Top leg on top. Core muscles in. Pushed away from the neck. Breathe in to prepare. Breathe out to press down and float. Breathe in to come down. Keep the shoulder pressing away. Press into the side of the knee and the elbow. We've got one more. And and release. Coming up to seated, we're just going to stretch from side to side. Keep your bottom glued. We're just loosening out through the shoulder and the waist that we've just worked. And that takes us nicely into the saw. Doesn't sound very pleasant, that's just the name of the move. It's an original move though, from Joseph Pilates. So, the original move has your legs out wide. That's not suitable for everybody, okay? So if you want to bring those legs in, feet together, one in, one out, crossed legs, both feet on the floor, knees bent, really doesn't matter. The only thing you can't do is sit on one bum cheek. You must have both bum cheeks glued to the floor. Now for some, sitting upright without a back support is just not possible. For some people the hip flexors won't do it, for some people the back and the core won't do it. For you, you grab your cushion, you sit on your cushion, and that will lift you up. You need to be in this position throughout the move. So that can be quite challenging. So sit on your cushion if you need to. I'm going to sit with my legs wide because that's simply how I'm used to doing this move. You don't have to. Wriggle your bottom into the floor, round off those shoulders, grow through the spine, crown up towards the ceiling. We're going to go from side to side. Take the arms out a bit like a ballerina. Little finger to little finger. It's going to go toe to toe on opposite sides. So breathe in to prepare. As you breathe out, twist through the waist. Aim little finger to little toe. You're not going to meet necessarily, but that's the way you're headed. Breathe in to lift up. Breathe out to twist. Other side. So what we're doing here is we're stretching. I'm sure you can feel it. From heel up towards your hip, back of the knee maybe. We're stretching across the shoulders, diagonally from shoulder down to opposite hip as well. So we're stretching across your back. You're working through your waist. Core muscles are switched on, simply twisting from side to side. You might hopefully find that you're reaching a little further each time. Have you sunk? Sit tall. Twist and reach as you breathe out. And reach. We'll do one more to each side. We're winding down now, coming towards the end of the class. And release. Give those shoulders a wiggle. Bring those legs in. We're actually going to take both feet over to one side now. We're going to do a stretch called the mini triangle. So both feet are over to my right, so I'll take my left hand to the floor. So your hand goes to the opposite side to the feet. Push down with the hand and the two knees. Reach the other fingers for the sky. Press your hips forwards. We're trying to open through the hip area. Looking up if you can, but you don't have to. If that arm lifted is too much, you can drop the hand behind your back. But the idea is that you pin the shoulder back, you press your hips forwards, just to open out through those hip flexors. And release down. We'll simply go to the other side. So remember, the hand goes to the floor, the opposite side of the feet. It's foot to thigh with that front leg. Hand to the floor, other hand to the sky. Push the hips forwards as far as you can. Remember, you can drop the arm behind your back if the neck or shoulder struggles. Keep breathing. Still in through the nose and out through the mouth. You're still connected through your core. You're still supporting. And we're training our brain to keep those core muscles connected every time we move. And release. I'm turning to the side now, but you don't have to. Sit comfortable on that cushion if you need to. Take the arms behind. Lace the fingers together. Lift them up, drop your chin. If that's too much, just take your arms out to the side and spread your palms out. That's enough to stretch across the chest. And then we'll reverse that. Imagine you've got a large boulder in front of you. Give it a big hug, drop your chin, really open out across the back of the rib cage. This time you can sink backwards to help that stretch out a little if you wish. Breathe and then release. Back to the front one final time. I always do this at the end of most of my classes. It just releases the tension from the shoulders. Lift the shoulders up, actually shrug them up. Now take the elbows up and the hands. Breathe in and breathe out. Just feel all the tension drain away from your body. Doing that once more. Shoulders, elbows and hands. Breathe in and drop. Thank you very much for joining me for my class. Really appreciate it. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again in class soon. Take care. Bye bye.